Hey, I'm Three Gnomes. I'm an indie game developer, and I've been working on a game called Toby's Topsy Tale for a while, which is a weird mix of 3D platformers like Super Mario 64, and also psychological horrors like The Evil Within. So it's a game that's trying to balance a lot of things, and with that comes a lot of responsibility to do them right. In the past, when people have asked me questions about the story, I've been kind of vague because I didn't want to spoil anything, and I still don't, but I think it's time I give you a premise, and make sure you stick around to the end of the video for this one. The game is about a gingerbread man, obviously, who is exploring to find out why his creator's mental state is starting to decline. And to do so, you'll have to explore this big big for you, hub world house that's very 1950s inspired that seems abandoned, and try and figure out where everyone is and what's going on and what everything that you're experiencing and seeing means. So it is a narrative game, just in a more abstract sense where it's up to you to kind of figure out what the narrative is. Additionally, obviously if it's a hub world, there are other worlds that it connects to, and you're able to go and explore all of those, and those also have different answers. So that's enough of me pitching the game to you and explaining, and let's start talking about what I actually did for this devlog. So to start out, I finished the pause menu. Done. If you saw my last devlog, I was working on the character section, and I got the settings and all of that stuff done, and this time I got the inventory done. As you might have just saw, there's a new collectible that you can grab as well throughout the game, which I'm calling Occult Pages. On a surface level, as you find these, in your inventory it'll unlock pages to show new orbs that you've discovered. But below the surface, the amount that you collect actually affects the state of the world as well as a lot of other things, including possibly unlocking certain alternate endings for the game. So kind of an important one. So one thing I do pretty regularly is go back and kind of look at the original concept art I had for each level just to make sure what could be improved or what could be changed to make it fit the original vision more. And I realized one of the big things that the fridge level was missing was the actual feeling of a land at war, because even if one side was majorly winning, the original vision was for there to be a war happening. So as I always do, I found something that I had put off that now I needed to do to kind of make the scene complete. And it seems like a simple thing, but I decided to start with the cannons. So that we have these cracker cannons here that originally weren't doing anything, they were just sitting there. And now I wanted them to be blasting the other kingdom. So I started by just giving them some basic fire, and then animating them so they do a poof, poof, and then blasting. And I even set it up so that there was a big explosion on the other side to kind of correlate with it. And I loved how that felt. That already made it feel like you were in an active war zone. And even more so when you're actually on the other side, sometimes actually taking the cannon fire. And then to just kind of complete the look, I set a lot of the destroyed buildings and the castle on fire. So one thing that you'll discover as you're playing the game is that certain choices you make will actually drastically change the way a level looks. A lot of the levels have alternative states depending on your choices. For example, the fridge world typically might look like this, but depending on what you do, it can also look like this. So there is a lot of reason to actually re-explore areas that you've been through already. Next, since I now had like a really nice looking fire, I decided to get rid of the stylized fire that I'd created for the freezer section. Again, it's one of those situations where I knew it wasn't perfect, but I had to get it done. And now I can make it perfect. Next up, I started working on a checkpoint system. A lot of the more intense platforming levels, I felt like it was necessary to give certain checkpoints along the way. So I kind of just used the candy cane design and put it in basically to set it up where it's a post, and then it's in the ground, and then it'll pop up when you get close to it and actually light up with fire and sparks. And then all I had to do was kind of just set it up as a respawn point in case you die. Next, I turned my attention to the hub world because I felt like it just still wasn't exactly what I wanted. It didn't have the look I needed. So I started by fixing the fridge because that had been bothering me. And then I went in and updated the material of the floor to give it a better texture. And then I played with the lighting a little bit. Then I actually started really fine-tuning the post-processing effects. So this is what it looked like before, just very bland, very cool-toned. And then this is what it looks like after with all the post-processing effects added. A kind of warm, Sunday morning, late afternoon, hard to tell, just comforting vibe, with just a soft, warm glow to everything. And then now that it had a warm glow, the sky didn't match. So I found one that did. I added some curtains up in the kitchen. I added some more platforming, specifically added some hand towels along the wall over by the oven and the sink. And then I made it so the pans could also be used as platforms. And then I added in the shelving and some other decor for the level. I put a picnic basket in with some buttons around it, and I put some stuff on the coffee table, and then I also put a rug, a runner, down the length of the hallway. And at this point, I thought it was looking perfect. So a lot of you have been saying that you think the game needs a drop shadow, specifically Toby needs a drop shadow underneath him to help with the platforming, and I know that tends to be a pretty common staple of the genre. So I went ahead and started fooling with that. A lot of times when I'm sort of playing with new things, I like to do it in a file that isn't my main game file. So I actually just kind of messed with it a little bit in the old Game Jam file that I had. And with some trial and error, didn't work at first, I eventually got the shadow to kind of follow you naturally. And I put it in, and I tried it in Toby's Topsy Tail, but I just didn't like how it looked with him. And to be honest, maybe it's because I've played it a lot, but I didn't feel like it was something that was actually strictly necessary. Especially not if I was giving you checkpoints along the way. After that, I turned my attention to the lava in the oven, and at this point, a lot of the feedback that I got from my partner helped me change a lot of the things in these next couple levels I'll talk about, specifically like the lava. She thought that it needed a little bit more like chunks in it, and it needed to just have a little bit more intense of a look to it, and I agreed with that. Another great thing that my girlfriend pointed out about one of my levels, of the yarn level specifically, is that there didn't seem to be a lot of movement. It was kind of stale. And so I added in a bunch of bees that kind of fly around that you can actually interact with, and snails, and there's bunnies and birds, and added in some stumps that were just kind of around to give some height variance. I put in some lily pads, and then I also just made the trees kind of go up and down in different groups, so that there was some movement amongst those as well. And all in all, I think that made the level pop. Next up, it was time to add in the one stretch goal that I reached for the Kickstarter that I did for this game, which is the Funhouse Skin. And that's a skin you can unlock in a slightly different way than the way that you unlock the rest of the skins. But I'm not going to tell you how to get it. Play the game, find the secrets. After that, I finally put in the Avocado King, Lord Vado, into his castle inside the fridge world. Now, I'd modeled and textured him a long time ago, but I'd been putting him off because I wanted to make sure that I had a really good grasp of all of the mechanics and the coding so that he could be really exceptional. I wanted him to stand out, so now I felt like I was at a point where I could make him great. So I started working on him. I basically just gave him a little idle animation, and yeah, I pretty much just started with him, but I got him into the game. So next up, I started on a section that's a little bit different than everything else. It's going to be a brief moment where you're actually going to be in first person. So I started kind of messing with that, with some funny things popping up as I tried to get that going. But then, ultimately, I ended up really liking how it worked when it was all kind of figured out, and there's still more work to do on that, but you pretty much just have a little flashlight you can turn on and off, and I love how it looks. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to cut the devlog there, make it a little shorter than maybe I normally do, because I have some really exciting news that I'm going to tell you tomorrow. And I want to make sure that you tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. and you don't miss the opportunity to find out immediately what's in motion for Toby's Topsy Tail. Thank you for watching. Thank you guys all so much for your support. I just did a game jam. It's going phenomenal. We've got like almost 500 reviews already. We still got like days left. And the channel is going great, and the game is going great, and I just can't wait to tell you all of this exciting news tomorrow. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and end with the Lovecraft quote like I've been trying to do with my past videos. All life is only a set of pictures in the brain, among which there is no difference betwixt those born of real things and those born of inward dreamings, and no cause to value the one above the other. Thank you for watching. Oh, and join my Discord. I should mention that.